In California, the state slogan is Eureka, which is Greek for I have found it. We love finding eureka moments on this podcast. That one tiny little moment in time and space when somebody tries to squeeze through that hole and there's a little thing that says you cannot come here because white people are not allowed here. Black Lives Matter, burning it down. Found this in a Manhattan school over the last couple of days. See, what's the school's name? The name of the school is Beacon High School. I'll read you the headline. Teacher tells students to boycott Beacon High School after a white girl is accused of racism. A black teacher at Manhattan's Beacon High School told cheering students to boycott the elite campus after an incident involving a white Jewish girl sparked complaints about a racist environment. Do you want to hear what the girl's big complaint that touched all this off was? Friday's protest was set off by allegedly racist remarks that a black student claimed he overheard a white Jewish girl making in a confidential meeting with two white Jewish guidance counselors. The girl told the New York Post that she was only seeking support for her own college plan at the time. She was disappointed. This is the white girl talking now. Disappointed that she was put on a wait list at a top university. She and her counselors were reviewing scattergrams, which is a chart on admission data showing that some students with less academic qualifications than she had were being accepted into colleges, said the teenagers. The counselors mentioned scholarship programs for minorities such as Posse and Quest Bridge. Quote, "The context of my private conversation included my disapproval about the unfairness of students who were accepted to college without meeting the rigorous criteria that I and others work so hard to achieve because they might be athletes, afforded financial scholarships, and or get seats based on affirmative action programs as opposed to academic achievement as the first and only criteria," the girl explained in a statement. The black student who heard this, he barged into the meeting and berated the girl and her counselors, causing a commotion. As word spread, the girl became the target of cyberbullying threats. One Instagram post accused her of saying, quote, "Minority stole her spot." And another one said, she said, "I'm not going to go to school for black and brown people who are retarded." And another one said, these are all directed at the white girl, "She's definitely messing with the wrong group of people. She clearly don't know how we grow up because that bitch looking to be destroyed, literally."
And most people think black people can't be racist either, by the way.
Boy, it's amazing how quickly, all these scholars, right? The people getting these admissions into these schools with very, very high bars for admission. It's amazing how many of them, their default response is threats and violence. I mean, I thought when you're like a Columbia person or a Harvard person or a Yale or a Princeton person, there's 50 colleges in America just like that. I mean, aren't you the kind of person that's supposed to sit down and take out your little scalpel and slice and dice your opponent's arguments? Not your opponent himself or herself. You're supposed to slice and dice until your opponent throws up his hands in the air, runs out of the room crying because he has been shamed publicly for saying something really stupid that was so easily exposed. Isn't that how the world of academia works? No, instead we get this. The audio is just a little sketchy. It's from the meeting that the students at this school had in the cafeteria just a couple of days ago. One's a student, the second one's a teacher.
I wanted some last-minute advice that could help me. And when I walked in, I heard screaming and laughing in the college office, and I asked around, what is going on? And the students there told me what that student had said. And when I heard that, I left because that was not a safe space for me. I became very college counselors because I wanted advice, and I realized that I could not trust them the way I had before. And when I hear that they're laughing, I understand that it was a reaction to an uncomfortable situation. But if I had a college counselor in there who looked like me, their immediate reaction would not have been to awkwardly laugh. It would have been to punish that student.
You are not here. Education stops. And the problem with that is it cannot stop because you have such hard work to do once you leave these walls. So what we are asking that all students do not come to school that day to show solidarity for the support of not just students of color, but all students at Beacon in providing a safe space. Until the demands are met, students are not to return to school.
So when you go to high school in a New York City school, one where you have to, I think that's one of those schools where you actually have to test to get in. It's like 10% black, 50% white, and mixed rest Asians and Hispanics. Anyway, so you're in there, you're in at these elite high schools. There's no question what you are learning at the elite high schools. What that girl who complained about the affirmative action, the racial quotas, there's no question that for the prior 3 years, she'd been learning about how black people are relentless victims of relentless white racism all the time, everywhere. That explains everything, especially why black people can't get into Harvard. It's just white racism. I mean, that's what the kids learn. To their credit, the black people we just heard, lots and lots of kids in that school cafeteria crowding around, cheering their every word. Yeah, they all learned. They learned their lesson well. The black people are relentless victims of white racism. Now this white girl comes along and maybe she believed that up until that moment. Maybe she believed that up until the moment that she saw it right in front of her face, that other people were getting into better colleges that she could not get into because she was white and they were not. She didn't like that. And the scales fell from her eyes. And the sense of betrayal must have been enormous because that's all what she had been learning for the last 3 years, at least 3 years in high school. Who knows what she'd been learning at home? Who knows what she'd been learning in grade school? But that's how they roll in New York City schools. They're not having discussions up there about race. They are telling you like it is. And now this girl sees her whole life in front of her that she's being shut out of her opportunities because she is white. And then there was a student listening to her talk to her counselors. It's weird that everybody, it's kind of like said, she's Jewish, her counselors were Jewish. Yeah, it's all a Jewish thing, I guess. I don't know why the Post went out of their way to talk about that. But a fella goes into the room, breaks into the room when they're in there, and he starts berating the girl for putting down racial quotas and affirmative action. He starts yelling at her, threatening her. And that just continued on and on and on. You think it's going to stop? In the school, out of the school, online, offline, to school, from school. That girl's in danger, whether she recognizes it or not, whether she realizes it or not. Maybe she does now. Maybe she's starting to question all the rest of the stuff she sees in the news. Maybe she sees the fellas killing Jewish people at a Jewish deli in Jersey City, right across. Jersey City is like a suburb of New York City, okay? You could see it right from Jersey City. There it is, Manhattan, boom, right there. And now we've got all these people coming out, before they knew anything. Joy Behar, a congresswoman from Detroit, Ilhan Omar, I think her name is, telling us it was all about white supremacy, that black people are killing Jewish people. Maybe this will help her interpret the other black on Jewish attacks in New York City that there's so many that only a few make it into the local paper. Maybe that'll help her interpret that a little better. Maybe it'll help her wonder why the people at Columbia and Barnard University did not take their students aside and say, hey, welcome to Columbia, welcome to Barnard. We have a lot of really, really smart people on these two campuses. Some of the smartest in the world, some of the smartest in the city. But there's one thing we're not really that smart about, and that is how to keep our students out of trouble. Because we're not really going to tell you, if you go into that park, there's a lot of black people in there who hate white people and who will literally destroy you, to use the language of we just heard in high school, who will literally destroy you if they catch you in there in any kind of vulnerable position whatsoever. Yeah, they've been doing that for as long as anybody or Columbia and Barnard can remember. You know, that's the school's first instinct, is always to retract, is always to pull back, is always to cover up the whole thing that's happening. They don't want the parents to know of current and future students. They don't want them to know that their children, they're sending their child to a place where they are under constant threat of black violence and robbery. They don't want them to know that. People recognized this about 20 years ago when a woman named Jean Cleary was in her high school dormitory, and one of the fellas who just lost an election to become president of the Black Student Union in a college in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. There weren't even that many black students in the college. He goes out, drinks a few beers. He kind of breaks into a dormitory, goes into a girl's dormitory through a door that was propped open with a pizza box. Goes into this girl's room, Jean Clary's room, beat her, raped her, murdered her. And it turns out the university had been kind of hiding this violence that had been happening on this otherwise bucolic campus. So the feds got together and made the Cleary law that said, hey, you got to report the law. You got to report this violence against students so we'll know what's up on your campus. And so what the colleges do, they get a little line, they draw it right around the campus. And if you're walking from one part of campus to the other and you walk 1 foot outside of that line, the kind of place you could be expected to go in the normal course of your collegial career, if you go there, the college has no obligation to tell you what you're getting into. It has no obligation to tell other parents what happened to you when you did that. And that's exactly what happened here at Barnard and at Columbia. Last spring, they had a big rally. It was a big Black Lives Matter rally condemning the police for profiling because some fella was acting up in the library. Oh no, that was bad because everybody at Barnard knows that black people are relentless victims of relentless white racism. So, in Barnard and Columbia's defense, maybe had they warned the students what their university is really like when you leave the university property, however briefly, maybe the kids wouldn't have believed it anyway, because when you go to a Barnard in Columbia, they only let kids in there, their shells of denial, deceit, and delusion are really kind of intact. And now we got this girl who wants to go to a nice college, the nicest one, the best one that would fit her intellectual achievements. And these achievements aren't just about being smart, right? It's about grinding. It's about doing the homework. It's about studying till you learn every single word in every single textbook. It's not about showing up after you get a D in the class and complaining that the class is culturally biased. No, it's about accepting the rules, playing in the rules, and winning by the rules. That's what she did. And then when she came to collect her prize, the high school had to break the bad news to her. We're not giving you a blue ribbon for first place. We're giving you one of those participation ribbons, pink ribbons, for 15th place. And we think there's a nice junior college down the road that would be thrilled to have you. Hey, what about my hard work? What kind of world are we living in where we're just giving people free stuff based on race, including seats at these exclusive universities? Everybody in New York City knows the answer to that question. It's so self-apparent we don't even ask the question anymore. We're giving out those seats to black people because black people are victims of racism from you, and you just proved it by noticing by noticing this relentless black on white hostility, which is now so omnipresent that it's like a fish in the water. The fish doesn't even know it's swimming around in the water.
And so what's actually happening when a person says, I'm not racist, is they're either consciously denying or defending their own racism, or I think for many Americans, they don't realize that they are saying a term, they're saying a line, I'm not racist, that white supremacists are saying right now. That Jim Crow segregationists said, I'm not racist when charged with being racist. That eugenicists said, when charged with being racist, their response was, I'm not racist.
So that term's got a lot of baggage around it.
It does. And I don't think many people realize the baggage that it has.
And now we got all the students at these high schools all over New York up in arms, because it's not just about the kids at that high school who want to go to a better college but are being shut out because the colleges and the high schools are conspiring together to make sure that they have racial quotas for kids from their high school getting into these colleges. It's not just that. Now the kids who at that rally, now they're saying, let's take all the elite high schools in New York. I think there's like 16 of them. And let's make sure we just get rid of the test you have to take to get in. Because if you get rid of the test, that will allow us to admit more black people. Because black people can't pass that test to get in. It's cultural bias. Do you know in California it's illegal to give a black person an IQ test at school? Yeah, I didn't believe that either till we did a podcast on it. I didn't believe it either. Till we heard the thing on NPR where they're going, yeah, you can't even give a black person an IQ test in California because they're culturally biased. Every single damn test is culturally biased. So we let black people into these schools they have no business being, and Michelle Obama at Princeton. And when they get there, they only have one choice. They can go study reading, writing, arithmetic with the rest of the kids, study some very, very difficult subjects that you've got to be on your game to learn, or else you can veer off into the Black Studies department career, and you could spend the next 4 years of your life learning, reinforcing your belief about white racism, black victimization, and that's the answer to every single question on every single test. You do nothing but learn about black racial hostility towards white people. And now we've got these black people coming out of these colleges without anything they can do that's useful. No, having a degree in black studies is not useful. Even if you get a job at a big defense contractor in the human relations department where your main job is wandering around looking for all this hidden white racism. Yeah, people do that. And so these people at this high school, these people at these colleges think they're giving these black kids a break. They think they're giving them a foot up. They think they're giving them an advantage to get a better life just because at the end of this, somebody's going to give them a little piece of paper with a college name on it and their name on it. Nobody cares about that anymore. People care about what you can do now. Okay, if you go to Harvard and you're all buddies with the Harvard people and they're all going to rule the world, okay, that can't hurt. I get that. But if you send a kid to an elite school and they get a degree that they're not entitled to because there's not a single teacher in that college who has the nerve to give them a failing grade for failing work, you've just doomed that kid to enter some crazy world they're not ready for, and you've eliminated him for being in another world that they might enjoy that they are ready for. Yeah, if you don't believe me, go read Michelle Obama's senior thesis at Princeton. I think 1 million people have tried to read that thesis, and I don't think anyone's ever gotten past the first page. I think it was Christopher Hitchens who said, it wouldn't really be accurate to say I just read this thesis, Michelle Obama's senior thesis, because it's written in a language that nobody's familiar with. And now we're just going to keep doing that. And kids, When they think about being a kid, you old folks out there like me, you might forget this, but kids have a very finely tuned sense of justice, especially if there's more than one kid involved. They always want to make sure whatever one kids get, everybody gets the same, right? It's like, no, if it's 50% plus 0.1, if it's 50.1% goes to one kid, 49.9% goes to another, that's a major crisis because one kid knows that's not fair. And so when these white kids in these high schools are learning that this whole racial action affirmative quota thing isn't for other people, it's not just for all the big bad white racists that apparently are everywhere on the planet. Oh no, that's directed right at you. When they learn that they're talking about you, it's like the saying at a poker game. If you sit down at a poker game and there's 5 people sitting down and you look around and you can't see the sucker, yeah, that means you're it. And I don't know if this one at a time thing is going to work quickly enough to kind of wake people up as to the intrinsic unfairness, the intrinsic evil of these racial quotas. Oh, by the way, the fellas and lovely ladies, they love hearing white people complain about racial quotas because you know what they do? They turn to each other and they go, oh, they don't like it when it's their turn. They don't, ain't no fun when the rabbit's got the gun. And we see this. Now we're seeing this more and more often. People, they're just looking at a camera or a microphone. They're going, hey, wait a minute. This thing's affecting me? The mom of the businessman in Philadelphia, 20-year-old black kid, put a kitchen knife in his back, a French knife in his back, for no damn reason whatsoever other than he had a knife fetish. A black jury, at least 5 black members told him he could go free, guilty as hell, free as a bird. Now the white mom, is just shrieking. She can't figure out what the hell's going on. She even said, she goes, hey, well, I voted for Krasner. I thought it was a good idea that his idea that there were too many black people in jail for no reason whatsoever, except putting people in death row for smoking a joint. Yeah, that's kind of the language that we hear. And everybody thinks we're talking about somebody else until one day you get a call from the cops. The cops knock at your door and they say, Mrs. Skellenagger, is this you? Do you have a son named Sean? Could we come in? Where the school counselors are looking at that 16-year-old white girl at a elite Manhattan school, and she just sees it right in front of her in the graphs that she is going to be denied entrance into a school that she's worked hard to get into, all because some crazy-ass adults who should know better have decided that black people need more free stuff, except it's not free. This free stuff's coming from you. Yeah, you were down with the cause a minute ago. You didn't know what the price of the cause was. Maybe the price to this woman and 16-year-old girl at Manhattan isn't as high as the price Mrs. Skellenagger found she had to pay. But that is the price. You're going to pay it. Somebody's going to pay it on a lot of different levels. Maybe we should be thankful this 16-year-old girl found out at an early age what the price is, what she had to pay, so she could avoid a much larger butcher bill in the future. She's not the only one who had some of the scales knocked from her eyes this week. Why don't we go up to our buddy Meek Mill? Now, Meek Mill, if you don't remember Meek Mill had got some, well, you don't read all the news about all the rappers. Okay, so Meek Mill got arrested like 10 years ago, and the last 10 years, it's been one constant battle of him going to jail, coming out on probation, violating his probation, going back, getting out, violating his probation, going out, coming back. For guns, drugs, money. That's what he sings about, what he raps about. Guns, drugs, money, bitches, murder, and violence. So that's Meek Mill. 2 years ago, he got some notoriety because his song, what was it called? I forget what it was called. We did a thing on it here at the time. His song, full of references to gun, drugs, money, bitches, murder. That was like the song that the Philadelphia Eagles played in their locker room. This is when they won the Super Bowl that year. They played it as they went on the field. They played it while they were on the field. They played it leaving the field. They played it all the damn time. And I guarantee you, not 1 in a million of the people at home or in the stadium knew what the song was about. Guns, drugs, money, bitches, murder. So now Meek Mill finally got out of prison, got out of jail, if for no other reason than somebody just decided that we have too many black people in jail and we don't need to put another one in there, do we? No, of course not. Because the only reason black people are in jail in the first place is because of white racism. Oh yeah, that was thick in the air. That was thick before this happened.
Armed robbers get $5,000 cash from popular clothing store Milano de Rouge. Police say the men were wearing masks when they stormed into the Spring Garden business last night. A manager tells Eyewitness News there is surveillance video make that, but they did not want to share it with us at this time.
Yeah, so what they forgot to tell us on the newscast? That little high-priced, high-fashion store belonged to Meek Mill's girlfriend. It wasn't in the ghetto. It's in a little part of town where rich white girls go in and buy $2,000 purses and custom clothes and, with their daddies or with their something sugar daddies, Black American Express card. They never see the bill. They don't care about it. That's how that part of the world rolls. Anyway, so a fellow walks in, steals $5,000 in cash from Meek Mill's girlfriend. Oh no, he didn't like that. Here's what he said. Some bum-ass niggas robbed Milano store. By this time, everybody should probably know that Milano is his girlfriend. All she do is donate and inspire, LOL. Y'all brazy. I think it's supposed to say crazy. Y'all crazy. Here comes the money graph. Ready? Out of all stores that make money in that area, owned by all races but blacks, the black people choose to rob the black people. Meek Mill called that nigga-itis. Oh, man. Oh, so what is there to say about this? Meek Mill doesn't like it when black people rob black people. He's sitting there saying, hey, go rob the white people. Boy, this reminds me of the one clip. I have it somewhere. I just didn't mark it well enough. I haven't looked hard enough for it. But it was during one of the riots after, I think it was during one of the Michael Ferguson riots. I thought it was Cincinnati. Somebody else tells me it's Milwaukee. Do you remember the thing where the CNN cut off the sister of one of the victims in the riot? And she's in there saying, don't rob, don't steal. As if she's telling the crowd to cool down. They cut it there. They cut the part because it's kind of like the whole theme of the piece is CNN's doing this piece about how everybody's cooling down, the community's coming together to stop the violence because the fellas don't really believe in violence except when somebody gets them all pissed off. Then they do it a little bit, then they come to their senses, that's what happens. Anyway, so this black woman who had a relative somehow involved in the violence, she's reminding us, don't do it here. Don't do it here. Then after you get the full video, you see her saying, go do it in the suburbs. Go do it in the white areas. Don't riot and destroy here. Go somewhere else and do it where they deserve it. So that's Meek Mill. Is Meek Mill thinking on 2 dimensions these days? Did he really just say, why don't you go rob that Asian store instead of the black store? Did he really say that? Did he really? Now, if you asked him, he would say, oh, Colin, how could you say that? I'm going to write a song about you, Colin, that calls you all sorts of names. And you're never going to get a ride on my jet with Milano. You see lots of pictures of Milano plopped down in a chair in a most, I don't know, man. There's Milano plopped down in a private jet. And she's just sitting there with her legs spread open and her hand between her legs. But she's supposed to be like modeling her own clothing. If you go into her store, that's what you see. You see pictures of her modeling her own clothing. Listen, I don't expect every fella or lovely lady coming out of the ghetto to go into a finishing school. But good Lord, is it too much to say if you have a lovely lady who wants to go upscale, wants to sell all their stuff to a bunch of rich white people? Is it too much to say, hey, why don't you cross your legs like, an elegant, refined person might do? I know. You don't want to, you want to have the hood. That's what you're doing. You're selling the hood stuff, the hood brand to the white people, and they just can't pay enough for it. I get it. But I don't get how Meek Mill can tell everybody that black people are victims of white racism. We ought to let them all out of prison because they're all there for no damn reason whatsoever other than white racism that caused that people to get in, clunk somebody on the head in the first place. Now it happens to his little sweetheart, and he just turns around and says, go rob other people. And he's going to sit there, and all the people around him that see that are going to say, nobody will notice you just said black people should go rob white people and Asian people, but leave black people alone. So that's where we are now. So if you got somebody like a national celebrity like Meek Mill telling black people just to rob white people, do you think anybody's going to have any heartburn by telling a 16-year-old girl they don't give an F if they put every single black person in her school in front of her in a line to get in the top 50 schools in this country? No, they're going to laugh at her and say, listen, white people have been doing it for us for a long time, so go F yourself. That's the world we're living in now. I don't know. You tell me, people with kids in high school, are they figuring this out? Let's hope they do before Meek Mill gets to them.
Violent night, black on white, media is out of sight, chaos in the streets of downtown, Black Lives Matter burning it down, sleep in terrified fear, sleep in terrified fear. Violent night, holy shite, firebombs, dynamite, just a large group of teens. No arrests were made on the scene. Where are all the police? Where are all the police? Violent night, white flight, exodus, overnight, all the commerce will disappear. No way in hell that I'll live here. At last I finally leave and sleep in heavenly peace.
Here's a story about hate crimes in Cleveland. Could have been hate crimes anywhere. I don't like the word hate crimes. We don't really use it around here. You ever hear me say, hey, that's that black guy beat up a white guy, and if that was a white guy beating up a black guy, it'd be a hate crime. Now the black guy beat the white guy. No, I don't do that, because any kind of approximation of hate crimes you get is going to severely, significantly, massively, epically understate the amount of black on white violence and hostility and hatred. I mean, what do you call it when a bunch of adults at a high school get up and say, yeah, we want to make this school a place where black people get to stay in front of line of a white person. You think that's a normal, healthy, affectionate, respectful relationship? Or is that something where these respectful people are just, they can't contain their hatred and their vitriol, and it just drips out of them every second? Yeah, just like Meek Mill. That's the world we're living in now. Black scorn, hostility, resentment, hatred. It's just easy to find. We're documenting that here every day. I just don't think enough white people are aware of it, because when they see somebody say something like that on television, everybody just shrugs their shoulders and go, well, yeah, white people, I mean, black people have a right to be really pissed at black people because in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. And besides, I know they're not talking about me. They're talking about every other white person in America who's a racist, not me. So now we get these people in Cleveland trying to pretend that hate crimes are going up. They went from 8 to 38. Oh, no. No. Well, let's just hear it so we can get an idea of the level of craziness going on out there.
In Cleveland, they are skyrocketing, nearly 5 times as many last year as there were just 3 years before. And it does not matter the motivation. Hate crimes over race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, they're all on the rise. 5 on Your Side investigator Joe Paganakis takes a closer look at what's behind the trend and what we can do about it.
Well, according to the experts we talked to, part of the sharp increase in hate crimes is because more people are coming forward to report them, and that police are doing a better job in classifying and recognizing hate crimes. Still, though, the experts say, sadly, hate crimes are on the rise right here in Cleveland.
They are very disheartening, Joe. They're discouraging.
CSU Urban Studies professor Ronnie Dunn reacting to the latest FBI stats on reported Cleveland hate crimes, showing a total of 8 in both 2015 and 2016, 12 reported in 2017, and a total of 38 hate crimes reported in Cleveland in 2018.
Race and ethnicity-based hate crimes are the majority. I think we've seen they account for 27% of those hate incidents.
Dunn pointing to the deadly shooting at a Jewish market in Jersey City this week that claimed the lives of 4 innocent people. The mayor portrayed the bloodshed as a hate crime against Jews. Professor Dunn says there is a growing national climate of divisiveness stoked by national leaders that has played a role in increased hate crimes across the country and here in Cleveland, and that social media has a part in empowering hate crime attackers.
They get into these chat rooms and these communities online, and they're radicalized, and these extreme views are perpetuated.
Unless we know the nature of the problem and the scope of the problem, we cannot figure out ways to try to address the problem.
Case Western law professor Michael Benza says part of the solution is that our country needs to do a better job in identifying, classifying, and recording hate crimes, and that our justice system must send a stronger message by investigating and prosecuting hate crimes more vigorously.
We want law enforcement to take them more seriously when they're looking at them, investigating. We want the prosecutors to pursue them maybe in a more aggressive manner.
And Professor Dunn says national stats show that Cleveland has the 8th highest level of hate crimes nationwide.
Then, of course, we bring in the black professor to talk about hate crimes. I wish where we had that professor of urban studies from Cleveland. I wished somebody would have taken a camera in and asked him a question about the one crime in Cleveland I can't get out of my mind. It's about these 2 white people. They're in their 40s, good-looking couple. They own their own tiny little used car dealership. Maybe there were 20 or 30 cars on the lot. But you know what? People that are in that business, you either make a go of it because you're a hustler or you don't, okay? And those people were good. They were good. So, they were doing fine at their little car dealership. This happened like 2 years ago. And finally, they called the cops. They kept calling the cops. They're saying, listen, we live near East Cleveland, and East Cleveland's coming. It's spilling over here. We're seeing a lot of black crime, a lot of black violence. Anybody who lives anywhere near Cleveland knows what East Cleveland means. Yeah, that's where the fellas live. And when you ask somebody in Cleveland about East Cleveland, they'll tell you no, that's not part of Cleveland. No, that's not us. But it is. Anyway, so this young couple, 40, 50 years old, they couldn't get anybody at the police department to listen to them. It's like, hey, this is cranking up the intensity, the frequency, the quality of the violence. It's going up, up, up. And it's all black people around here. The cops just said, oh, well, hey, what are you going to do? Good luck. Hope they don't steal too much from you. They even went on television and said the same thing. And by the time the television didn't even have time to run the spot before two fellas came in and killed them and stole a car, and they didn't catch him for another 6 months. Now, where was that genius professor when he was going to explain to us why these black people targeted those white people for murder? And guess what? That doesn't fit in anybody's definition of a hate crime. That's why I don't use the expression around here. Couldn't give a damn what these losers try to tack onto these crimes when it has just one purpose, and that is to totally underestimate the amount of black crime, violence, hatred, scorn, vitriol that is out there running around. In order to be a hate crime, you have to sprinkle little words over the corpse. You have to leave a note. You have to hold a sign that says, down with hunky. We don't like white people. I killed this person because they're white. But there is such a high level of black hostility, resentment, and hatred for white people today, so easy to find. The cops are just sitting there going, well, how do we separate this garden variety scorn, vitriol, hatred from the hatred that you have to have for us to call it a hate crime? How do we separate that? Nobody wants to get into that. And now we got this couple from Cleveland dead. And we got this professor from a university in Cleveland trying to pretend that white people are going around Cleveland, committing all these hate crimes on black people. What? You didn't have any? You had 38 stories. You couldn't find one, could you? You couldn't find one story, 38 in Cleveland. You couldn't find one. You had to go to New Jersey. You couldn't find one story in Cleveland of a hate crime that you thought would be compelling enough to put on your report. Why is that? Because hate crime is part of the biggest lie of our generation, the hoax of black victimization. And they keep happening over and over and over. And I don't care what your silly little legal definition of hate is. Doesn't work. I'm not concerned about it in the least. But why don't we go to Rush Limbaugh's old hometown, Cape Girardeau in Missouri? Two fellas go to buy some pot. They end up killing the white kid who sold them the pot. Do you think hate has anything to do with that?
Take a look at your screen. These two men face second-degree murder charges in Wednesday's deadly shooting in Cape Girardeau. The suspects, identified as 19-year-old Thomas Bean and 19-year-old Maurice Patterson, are considered armed and dangerous. According to Cape County prosecuting attorney Mark Welker, Bean and Patterson are accused of killing 53-year-old Richard Reeves inside his daughter's apartment on Spring Street. According to court documents, Bean agreed to buy marijuana from Reeves, but showed up at the apartment with Patterson and then shot Reeves multiple times. Again, Bean and Patterson are not in custody.
So it's just robbery, Colin. No, no, it's robbery. I understand the robbery. A lot of ways to rob somebody. Two black people robbed a white kid. Do you think their feelings, the average feelings of, let alone, above average, the average feelings of hatred, vitriol, and scorn that black people have for white people, do you think that entered into that equation at all? Oh, you think when the guy pulled the gun out and he killed that kid, he was singing Kumbaya, my lord? How about this? A casino in Lehigh County, kind of in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. A black guy sees a white woman. These casinos, man, they're like happy hunting grounds.
Lehigh County, a man is being held on $1 million bail after he allegedly kidnapped and beat an elderly woman outside Wind Creek Casino. Police say Hakeem Sessoms approached an 84-year-old in the parking lot yesterday afternoon after she cashed out her winnings. The victim told police that Sessoms then kicked her and forced her into her vehicle. While driving, Sessoms allegedly punched the victim in the head until she handed over the money. He then ran away but was arrested a short time later. The victim says Sessoms took just $10.
There's just an enormous level of crime in the parking lot. You see, a couple of fellows will be in a casino. They'll see somebody like win a couple $1,000s. They keep an eye on him. He goes to the cage, has a couple thousand. They get, they're working in a team. They follow him home. He gets out of the car. Bing, bam, boom. There goes his cash. Okay, tell me what this is, if not hate. Maybe it's mental illness. Well, hate is a mental illness. Here's the headline. You guys might remember this from 2 years ago. I remember it as if it were yesterday. Headline: man sentenced in brutal axe attack on bystander who offered to pay for him at West Hollywood 7-Eleven. So here's the setup. It was 4 a.m. West Hollywood, that's shorthand for a gay section of LA. I don't know what that white guy was doing in there at 4 a.m., but the black guy was in there robbing the place, shoplifting the place. The clerk comes up to the black guy and he goes, "Hey, my brother, we'd prefer if you pay for your stuff in this 7-Eleven. So the white guy, the bystander, he goes, "Oh, I'm down with the cause. The cause is down with me. I'll pay for that stuff. Let him go. Give it to him. I'll pay for it."
You have to understand, you have to look at it from every child's point of view that was raised in the hood. How he gonna get his money to have clothes to go to school?
What happens next, I will post over at minds.com. I don't remember this video coming out during the time. What happens next is the white guy walks out of the black guy gets all pissed off at the white guy. Oh, yeah. So the white guy walks out of the store. The camera picks up. You see a black guy with a hatchet. Yeah, we're talking Davy Crockett hatchet. He starts attacking the white guy, hits him with the hatchet around the shoulders and the head 10 times. I counted them. You want to tell me, okay, mental illness, fine. I mean, there are some people that are mentally ill that makes them happy all the time. Now we've got a mentally ill guy who just so happens, coincidentally, when he gets angry, when he gets mentally ill, he's going to find a white guy and try to kill him with a hatchet. You think that's a hate crime? You think we could get your genius professor from Cleveland to explain it to us? No, because every one of those losers are like cockroaches. When you turn the light on, they scatter whenever there's a crime, and some reporters is going around going, "Hey, anybody want to tell me what just happened in this black on white horrific crime scene?" And the 8 million people who would kill their own grandmother to be on TV to talk about black victimization and white racism are nowhere to be found. Can't find them in Cleveland. Can't find them in LA. Oh, man. Can't find them here over in Madison, Wisconsin. And if there's anywhere you should be able to find them, it should be Madison. I saw this video the other day. I didn't really know what I was looking at until I heard this. And when you hear this, this doesn't even come close to telling you what happened. I'll post this over at Minds as well.
Madison police say an educator at Orchard Ridge Elementary School on the west side was attacked by a parent yesterday. That woman, now identified as LaCandace Walker. Witnesses say Walker came into the school looking to speak with several staff members about disciplining her child. Police say the woman grabbed an educator by the hair, punched her in the face, threw her to the ground, and started kicking her. Other staff members pulled the suspect off the victim, who was rushed into a nearby locked office.
She's crying and, very distraught, obviously, over what took place. Meanwhile, this parent goes out into the hallway, continues to yell, use vulgar language, and then she leaves before officers get there, but we were able to locate her late yesterday afternoon and arrest her.
So what we see is this kind of timid white teacher and this rather large black woman having, as they say, a confrontation. No, the black woman's pissed because apparently the white teacher disciplined the black woman's child. And you don't do that to a black woman. You don't discipline a black child. So for the next 2 minutes, maybe more, the black woman was holding on to this white woman's hair and swinging her around and punching her in the face while the white woman was shrieking for mercy, shrieking for forgiveness, begging her to stop. And they stopped for a couple seconds. Then they started up again. And what do you call that if not hate? Again, could not care less about what the lawyers at the state capitol or the lawyers at the city hall define as hate. Listen, I've met too many of those people to be impressed by them by even one iota. That is hate. But if we get into their play the hate game, hate crime game trap, we're killing ourselves. I was doing a podcast with some people from Ireland earlier this year. And mostly, they were asking me what's happening here. Mostly, I was asking them what's going on over there. And they were letting us know that lots and lots of African refugees in Ireland that are down with the cause. And as soon as they get off the boat, the first thing they do is they look for free stuff. The second thing they do is they learn how to say the following words in English. You are racist. And so Ireland now is lost. There aren't that many people in Ireland to begin with. And so we were talking about that. Anyway, so we finished the conversation. I said, hey, my buddy Kent Brakey, he's an author. I think he's getting ready to go over to Ireland to write a book about Ireland and this exact topic. You might want to have him on your show. So they did. And those guys all of a sudden become best buddies. And the guy, I forget his name, but he runs this show called Critiqued. He just did a review of Kent Brakey's book. I thought you guys might get a kick out of hearing what he said. I just finished Kent Brakey's book. It's brilliant. It's the kind of book that gets better and better as it goes along. I wasn't too pleased to see a chapter going into Africa at the start, but then you brought this character to Ireland, then it worked out perfectly for the story, and it showed how some of these people expect everything and see us as a soft touch here. The leftist Davy O'Toole's of the world, and there are plenty here. The whole NGO setup is run by degenerates and feminists. He got his comeuppance, and he starts mentioning characters, or even though I hated that character. That's a powerful part, actually, how he turns on the useful idiot, the traitor. It's true to life as well. The useful idiots do get shot when they become of no more use. The Irish lingo is good as well, but I don't think people from outside here will get the reaffirming as we do here. It was like reading a book written in my own accent to me. I have to say, I totally enjoyed it, and the note to the reader at the end was very powerful. That was like the icing on the cake, because no one is under any illusion that you don't agree with the mass third world migration into Ireland. You have to get people to read that book now. I've mentioned it already on my video stream last Thursday, and I said the name of it, so let's see what happens. I just got an email the other day from my co-host, and he was on chapter 31, and he was enjoying it as well. Ken, thank you for sending me an advance copy. I was honored to have it. I know it's pure fiction, but in my mind, I compare the fictional characters with the ones I know in Ireland, and they're all very lifelike. Then he mentioned a few of his friends who would love to read it as well. I know he would know how good it was. We'll talk about that on our show coming up. Then he mentions about how some people don't really get into fiction. I've been talking about this for a long time. The reviewer goes, but some fictional books change the world, or at least were groundbreaking, like The Field or 1984. Your book should wake up a lot of people, and even the leftists who are the useful idiots in the book. Sorry for the late reply, but I just wanted to congratulate you on a great book. Wow. Good job, Kent. He's talking about Kent Brakey's latest book we've been talking about here as well. Hope you guys get a chance to check it out, maybe even before Christmas, but hey, after Christmas is fine too. I'm trying to get Kent to do the audio version of it. So far, he's resisting me. When I did the audio version of my books, I'm working on the second one now, and I realized that how many people want audiobooks. I really kind of kicked myself. I had not done it any sooner. Okay, we're in the backstretch now. I think that's about all we got for the day. I still can't get that teenage kid out of my mind who got all pissed off that apparently finding out for the first time that there's racial quotas in higher education and people want to take the same racial quotas into her high school. And now she thought she was part of the solution. Now she's part of the problem. Let's see how quickly it takes for all the scales to fall from her eyes. Let's see if she'll pick the scales up and glue them back on, because people often do that, especially if they do not want to make the black kids angry. Talk to you tomorrow.
Black on white, media is out of sight. Fireballs, dynamite, just a large group of teens. No arrests were made on the scene. Where are all the police? Where are all the police? Violent night, white flight, exodus, overnight. All the commerce will disappear. No way in hell that I'll live here at last.